Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jed Lee. I am so happy to welcome you to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can help with that mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, wherever you find your favorite shows. We have three fascinating guests for you today. Karol Hernandez will be here to start off, telling us all about Am Lachiva, the colorful bus of the Andes. Later in the show, Dawn Young will be here to celebrate Little Cub's Big List, fun with sight words. And wrapping up the show, Jin Wang will be here to celebrate her book. It's an illustrated memoir called Born Naughty. But first, we have a preview. We have a brand new podcast. It's going to be launching on our network later in the year, in the fall. It's called Guardians of the Game. And here is a quick preview.
220 years ago, there was a great war. Family fought family. Neighbor fought neighbor. Good fought evil. And the ending of that war was marked with the banishment of a being known only as the Destroyer. Society began to rebuild and was blessed with a long-lasting peace known as the Age of Tranquility. 70 years ago, that peace was challenged as a being known as the Nameless God threatened to erase the world and replace it with one of her own. Heroes rose and brought her and her generals down. This event inspired thousands all over the continent to train themselves as the next generation of adventurers, and the Age of Heroics began. 30 years ago, the new generation of heroes were put to the test by a multi-planar event that once again threatened reality as it was known. Beings called Weavers were created by strange magic, and those Weavers took it upon themselves to face the coming challenges. When this threat was eliminated, few remained who remembered the details of it, and the Weavers' power vanished from the world. Evils across the globe took the opportunity to rise in the absence of power, and the Age of Oppression began. This age was short-lived, as one group of heroes had risen to the top of the food chain, the Trifecta. Consisting of a wizard prodigy known as Joffrey the Unstoppable, a devilishly powerful sorceress by the name of Makara the Indomitable, and a master of the physical and martial arts known as Arthur the Unbreakable, the Trifecta quickly became the greatest heroes the world had ever known. Whenever a great evil rose, they were there to stop it, not in a matter of weeks or months, but in a matter of days, or often hours. Within a year, the Age of Oppression was over. With the Trifecta active, heroics and villainy died out. What villain would dare stand against the sheer effective force of the Trifecta? From bandit warlords all the way to ancient dragons, no evil was safe from their wrath. And what purpose was there to train heroes when an undying adventuring party kept the world safe from every threat? 1 year ago, the Trifecta vanished without a trace, and suddenly the world realized what had happened. A vacancy of power was opened for both good and evil, and a mad scramble began. Villains who had been lying secretly in wait rose to accomplish their goals, and heroes who were not prepared struggled to battle against them. The past age was given the name the Age of Diminishment, and the world only then began to restore itself to natural order in the absence of its apex predators, the Trifecta. This is where our story begins. In the chaos of a world caught between good and evil, but neither side powerful enough to stake a solid claim. Chaos rules the streets, adventurers are at a premium, and monsters run rampant. More than ever, the world needs heroes to fight back against the swelling tide of darkness. Lines between good and evil are skewed, might begins to make right, and ideals and beliefs are challenged for the first time in decades. Welcome to the Age of Dissonance.
Hey, my friends, we are in for a treat. Joining us right now from the sunny state of Florida, our guest is here today to celebrate Her wonderful children's book is called I Am Lachiva, The Colorful Bus of the Andes. Please welcome to the show, Karol Hernandez. Karol, how are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Delighted to have you on. I think I've encountered buses like Lachiva in my travels through Central America. I can't wait for you to tell us all about this bus.
I bet you have, because even though our story takes place in Colombia, my homeland, these buses are found all throughout Latin America doing a very important job, which is transporting people through rugged terrain. In our story is to and from the market. And so I'm sure you have seen them.
Yeah. So let's find out about the story. What's going on in the story?
So this story is about a day in the life of a community nestled in the Andes Mountains of Colombia. And it is told through the perspective of La Chiva, the bus at the center of the story. And so it follows them from sunrise to sunset as they journey to the market to sell products and produce and animals that the farmers bring to this market. Along the way, they encounter some issues, which they overcome as a team. And at the end of the day, we see them journey back with pride and delight for what they've accomplished throughout the day. The story is told in Spanglish. And somebody asked me recently why it wasn't fully in English. It's because Spanglish is my third language, right? And so as I started writing about about my homeland, I realized that it flowed in Spanglish. I was writing for my son. He was my primary audience for this story. And we speak Spanglish to each other. So it is also told in verse. So I think it was really fun to write in verse, playing with two languages as well.
Yeah. My son's first language was Spanglish. Absolutely. It was, I want agua. And,
Yes.
And I was really proud of that Spanish is not my first language. It's something I can converse in, I can get by, I can order the things that are necessary. Sometimes they're pretty comical, experiences when I'm trying to order something when I haven't encountered the word before. But it always gets by. And, I know that I certainly would love reading this book in Spanglish with my kids.
Awesome. Yeah. The Spanish version will come out in August. So I'm very excited that the book was translated fully to Spanish because it'll make it accessible to a broader audience. But yeah, Spanglish is just, and we lived in Tennessee for 9 years. And I realized that of course, because of my community, I was speaking mostly English. And as soon as we moved back to Florida, it's like that switch got activated and that Spanglish just ramped up in our household again.
So the buses, I think we should really talk about Lachiva and the buses. They're not like we see here in Boston, the MBTA bus. They're beautiful. They're painted bright colors. They're decorated. My impression, yes, absolutely.
I have my little Chiva bus right here at my desk.
Yeah. My understanding is that most of them are owned by the drivers and they seem to take great pride in their buses.
Yes. So a quick little backstory on Chiva buses. The reason they're called Chiva, which translates to goat, right? It's because when they were introduced to Colombia back in like the 1920s, 1930s, the horn that they had, I think the name is Claxton. I don't know the technical name, but they sounded like a goat. So it was like ba, ba. And so the farmers knew they could hear the sound before the bus turned, the corner. And so they would say, La Chiva's coming. And so that's where the name Chiva or goat comes from. They are beautifully decorated, with primary colors mainly. So yellow, blue, red, would be the case in Colombia. And it was a tradition that's been passed from generation to generation, the art of decorating Chiva buses.
Yeah, yeah. And they, as you said, they play a very vital role because there are a lot of people who aren't able to afford their own vehicles. And when you're in El Campo, when you're in the country, it's tough to get around.
Yeah, and not every vehicle can endure the conditions of these roads, right? They're not paved roads. In some cases, they're not even gravel roads. So you really need a hardy bus, a hardy means of transportation, which that's what Chiva buses provide. Of course, through the decades, as development has evolved in our countries, the need for Chiva buses, although it's still very much a necessity, it has declined a little bit. And so now you'll find Chiva buses in places like Cartagena, which is a major tourist hub in Colombia. Medellin, you'll find them in Miami, in New York. They have been outfitted as party buses, because beyond it, the role in transportation in Colombia, La Chiva is a cultural symbol of the country, and so it has kind of like moved on to the next stage of its life, which is to represent the country in major touristic hubs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think the first time I encountered the buses, it was in Panama, and I think in Panama they call them Diablitos or devil bus. That's
Really?
what someone told us. Yeah.
Awesome.
And some of them in Panama, they did kind of have a fierce look to them.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
I have to look that up.
Yeah, yeah. What was it that inspired? I know you said that you wrote this book for your son, but was there a bigger inspiration to actually get it out there to share it with the world?
Yes. So, I mean, this is a pandemic era project, right? I was home with my children, and my son just asked me one day if he could play with my little school bus. And I realized that he wasn't going to learn the meaning of a Chiva bus the way I did. I was around them, so I knew what they were. So I kind of explained the concept to him. He was 3 years old at the time. I was like, I don't think this registered. So I looked for a book. Couldn't really find a picture book on the topic. So I wrote the story for him, and kind of felt like it had potential. So I kept working on it. I actually started down my journey down the path of self-publishing, and right before kind of hit the button, my sister and my husband convinced me to try traditional publishing. And so I gave myself 3 months. Said, okay, I'm going to pause this project. We're going to give it 3 months. And within those 3 months, I was able to get representation from Jennifer Matson, and then to secure, publishing with Nancy Mercado at Dial. And here we are.
Boy, I tell you, we have lots of authors that are listening to this, and I am sure some of them are screaming at whatever device they're listening to it on by, things like, I've been looking for representation for 3 years. What do you mean you got it in 3 months? What's the secret?
I'm a marketer by trade, and so I think it's all about knowing your audience. I hear from a lot of aspiring authors who tell me, oh, I had such a productive week. I queried 50 people this week. I queried, 100 people this quarter. My list was 12. I spent many days studying the books that they expressed interest in. A lot of agents, they have in their profiles sample books, like titles that they have represented. So I was very methodical about my selection, and I narrowed that list down to 12. Worked really hard on my query letter, the comp titles. I just really tackled it like I would any other marketing project. Who is my audience? What do they care about? Why should they care about my book? And then I did my pitch in December, right around the holidays, when everybody says don't do it, people are out of office. And I was like, I have nothing to lose. So I'm just and I actually got immediate responses. I figured maybe some of these agents were, I don't know, sitting by the fire with their families, reading their emails. And I got 10 rejections pretty quickly. And I counted that as wins. I was like, hey, at least they read it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got 2 promising responses. But yeah, my advice would be it's quality, not quantity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have of course, we have lots of people pitching to be on the podcast here, and I've told people, I don't get a chance to read all of the pitches that come in. I very quickly stop reading pitches when I see, dear, put host name here. There on their template. I love your show, the reading with you, and it's like you've sent this to 100 other people.
Yes.
I don't need to read it, and it goes away.
Yeah, I agree. So absolutely, I make sure that my pitches were personalized again because I wasn't querying 100 people. I could actually devote the time to write 12 personalized pitches, and I think that's. Even though I got 10 rejections, I think that's why I got those rejection responses. They took the time because I took the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't we talk a little bit about the community that you grew up in? Because I love the fact that books can be mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. And being an old white guy from Boston, I love looking into different communities around the world. And I haven't traveled through Colombia, but like I said, I've traveled throughout Central America and beautiful island of Puerto Rico. So I think there's lots of similarities among those cultures. And just that market you were talking about, I love it. My wife's not a fan of those markets. I think they're just too crowded for her. I'm fascinated that there's so many things in these markets in the center of towns.
Yes, so a couple of things. One, you're right. There are so many similarities in our cultures, and I didn't know that until I moved from Colombia to South Florida as a teenager. And the way that I described it is like my world expanded and I met all these cousins that I didn't know I had. There's of course cultural, there's some differences in our culture, but we're so similar. And so I was very grateful for that realization, as a teenager. I love that you mentioned windows and mirrors because the original intent of this story, besides explaining to my kid what a Chiva was to give him both, a window into my world, which is his background. And then to provide him, not just my son, I have two daughters as well, but to provide them a different narrative from what you normally hear about Colombia. When you look at the content and the stories that are produced and shared about Colombia, they tend to lean towards a very sad path that we had. And I wanted to focus on what makes us who we are. And so the community that I grew up in, I told you I was born in Bogota, but I grew up in Pereira, which is in the coffee axle, of the country. My parents had a little supermarket in our house. And so, I mean, from the age of 8, I knew all my neighbors because they would come to buy bread and milk and cheese and beans and all these things. And so we were like a little epicenter of activity in our little community. And then, of course, we had to go to the market to buy produce and things for our own little supermarket. And I was reflecting on that the other day. I think the reason that my memories are so vivid is because I experienced the market at the eye level of a child. So these fruits and these, vegetables and edible roots, they were so real because that is what my eye could see. And then one of my favorite memories was going to this little stand where they would like squeeze oranges, make orange juice for you. And I remember drinking my orange juice and there were the Chivas and the Jeeps, these colorful means of transportation in the background. It was just so lively and people were so friendly and we knew each other by name. And I'm a kid, but I'm just like anybody else in the market, coming here to transact. And for me, it was super fun.
Yeah. Yes, there it is. It's a much different experience than driving down to your Winn-Dixie or Publix market or Walmart.
Yes, from the smells, which can be both magnificent all the way to revolting on the other end of that spectrum, the noise level, you wouldn't really go to the market wearing flip-flops, right? And so, but to me, what I remember so vividly is people knowing people, because this is where we all came to do business and enjoy food. And I look forward to my parents. I would ask them, please wake me up, because they would go Saturday at like 5 a.m. You got to get early to get the good pickings. Mm-hmm. And it was just something that I loved doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And people should know that there are still people all around the world living in a very similar way.
Yes. We actually visited Colombia with my kids, in 2021. And we took them to a very remote town, called Tuchin. This is not in the mountains. This is towards the Caribbean region of the country. There are no paved roads. The water, they still get water, in buckets and from wells and all that. And I think what shocked my kids the most, they had never been to a market where they could see like pig legs hanging from a hook and fish, and they were like, what is going on? I'm like, well, not everybody shops at Publix,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, are you planning on continuing writing and telling the stories of your childhood?
I would like to. So the past 2 years have been very busy. We moved from Tennessee to Florida, and I kind of went through this time of feeling like did I tell all my stories? Because I talk a lot. You can maybe gather that from our conversation. So I've told a lot of people a lot of stories. And recently I sat down to reflect. I was like, no, I have not told all my stories. So I started writing again. And, I think my great advantage is that I have a built-in critique group here in my 3 kids. So I just have bounced ideas off of them. And I think we have 1 or 2 that have been approved. I got the initial stamp of approval, so we'll be working on those.
That's wonderful. I love it. I think it sounds like a delightful story, and I think families will really love it. And I am guessing it's filled with bright, colorful illustrations.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So Lorena Alvarez Gomez is our illustrator. She is Colombian. So something that I am profoundly proud about this project is the fact that the whole team that worked on it is Colombian American. And I think that's important because it helped us with the authenticity of the book from cover to cover. And so Lorena lives in Colombia, and I could immediately tell when I saw the first sketches that she has been to these places. Like, she wasn't just referencing pictures somewhere. She has experienced these towns and these markets, and it shows in the depth of detail. And I also love that she added this extra layer of flora and fauna. Colombia is one of the most biodiverse countries in the world. And as you flip through the pages of the book, it's like, oh my God, I didn't see this bird the first time around. Oh, I didn't see this little, what is the word for what? I don't remember the name for this animal, but there are so many animals and details and flowers and so much depth that it's, for somebody who has been to Colombia, I think they'll immediately feel like, oh my gosh, yes, the person who created these illustrations has been there and is taking me along.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that this is a story told in rhyme, and that it was challenging writing a rhyming book in Spanglish. I imagine translating a rhyming book into a different language must also be an equally challenging task.
Yes. And so, the translator for this book, her name is Isabel Mendoza. So I worked alongside her with revisions, but she did the legwork. And I'm glad she did, because I think that I was intimidated. I didn't know how I could translate this to Spanish, staying faithful to the original work while keeping it in rhyme. It just seemed daunting. And so Isabel Mendoza stepped in and she worked her magic, and it works. It works.
That's wonderful. Tell me, where can we go to find out more about I Am Lachiva, the colorful bus of the Andes, and find out more about you?
You can go to Karolita.com. That's Karolita with the K. So Karolita.com. Karolita is little Carol. And that's just kind of been my name since I was like 16. So Karolita.com. You can find the book anywhere you buy books. So, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, Bookshop, anywhere. And then again, August 27th, Me llamo la Chiva, El Bus Colorido de los Andes will come out fully in Spanish. If you're in South Florida, I'll be at Books and Books in Coral Gables on Saturday, July 20th at 12 p.m. doing the official book launch. That day happens to also be Colombian Independence Day. So it's going to be extra special. And we're going to have a Chiva bus, an actual Chiva bus outside the library. So this is going to be a big celebration of culture, community, family, and of course, picture books.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Everybody, get down there and hop on the Chiva bus down in South Florida. We've had a great time speaking to the author of I Am Lachiva, the colorful bus of the Andes. Our guest has been Karolita Hernandez.
Carolita.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jed. This was so much fun.
Hey there, families! Are you looking for an exciting way to bond and learn together? Look no further than our STEM is Family Fun video series. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of STEM through hands-on activities right in your own home. Our series features lessons from experts at renowned institutions like the San Diego Children's Discovery Museum, the National Children's Museum in Washington, D.C., and Children's Museum Houston. From making homemade rainbow bridges to creating an oboe out of a straw, there's something for everyone in the family to enjoy. So grab your lab coats and get ready for an adventure. Go to readingwithyourkids.com and click on the STEM is Family Fun link at the top of the page and let the learning and laughter begin. STEM is Family Fun, where learning and bonding go hand in hand. Join us right now from right outside the city of Nashville in Tennessee. Our guest is here today to celebrate her book. It's called Little Cubs, Big List, Fun with Sight Words. Please welcome to the show, Dawn Young. Hey, Dawn, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Delighted to have you on. My beautiful wife was a teacher in the Boston Public School Systems for 34 years. And so sight words is a term that I heard an awful lot of the time.
Yes. It's words that children need to learn as early as possible to be successful readers.
So my understanding, a sight word is one of those words that kids should just know as soon as they see it and not have to decode it. Am I right about that?
That's correct. It's a word that is not really phonetically easy to pronounce, and so they basically need to memorize them. And now children in preschool, kindergarten, they really strive to have those kids learning as many sight words as possible.
And why I understand words that aren't easily decoded. I totally understand why you need, well, first off, I don't understand why we have words that aren't easily decoded. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, I talk about setting up a kid to be frustrated, if not fail. But given that, why is there a big push to learn more sight words?
The more sight words that children know, the more fluent they will be at reading. And they start out with probably learning about 40 words in preschool, 40 sight words, which is quite a few, but parents do not need to stress out their kids. It's important to just practice a couple at a time, see how their kids are feeling about it, and then, add more to them as they go. It's also important that they can practice with anybody at home, and there's different ways to practice sight words.
Oh, well, let's talk about some of those ways.
Okay. They don't have to just look at the words. You can make up games, use index cards, and make 2 sets of the the sight words that kids are learning, and play the match game where they turn them over and remember to see if they can find them. They can use sidewalk chalk and go outside and write sight words on the sidewalk and play hopscotch. They can get a 9x11 pan and put sand in the bottom and let kids write the word in the sand, or use shaving cream on a table, spray shaving cream, spread it out, and let them write their words in shaving cream, whatever grasps their interest.
Well, this sounds way too much fun to be a learning game. We've talked here on the show that it seems in a lot of areas, especially when it comes to subjects like history and some of the STEM subjects, educators have gone out of their way to make it uninteresting and the opposite of fun.
Yes, I was in education for 32 years also. And it used to be a whole lot more fun before the testing all came along. Teachers could be creative and come up with all kinds of fun ideas and teach kids in fun, creative ways. But I think that the testing has just put too much pressure on kids as well as teachers, and it's crazy, in my opinion.
I was sharing with Dawn that I was at a convention in Nashville, not too far from her home, just last week. It was a convention for elementary school principals, and we met hundreds of principals from all over the country and other exhibitors offering different products. That is one of the things that I heard, that there's that classrooms now are in the school day is so structured.
Yes.
That it in some cases teachers are given a script and they have to go by the script. I could never be a teacher for many different reasons, but that would be one thing that would drive me completely out of the field, because even though I performed on stage for 35 years, I've never been able to follow a script in my life.
I agree. It takes all the fun out of teaching.
So I want to get back to Little Cub's Big List in just a moment, but before we do, why do you think allowing teachers to be creative and have some flexibility in their classrooms and how they teach, why do you think that's so important?
Kids do not need to just sit in their seats and learn like we did back in the old days. I guess I'm old. Our society has changed so much, and there's so many things out there that attract them. And I think that kids all learn in different ways, and teachers need to reach each and every child. So being as creative and doing different activities and mixing up the day makes it so much easier and so much more fun for the kids.
Yeah, I agree. So what are some of the words that we're going to learn in Little Cub's Big List?
Well, can I tell you a little about the book first?
Absolutely.
Okay. I did a whole lot of research about sight words, and I did went to the library, and there are hundreds and hundreds of books with sight words, but I could not find one about a struggling character having to practice every day at home with their parents and their family. So that's how this book became inspired. It's a rhyming book. Little Cub is very distracted. He says, "It's too hard," cried Little Cub. "Keep trying. You'll be reading soon," said Papa Bear. "But the list is too hard." So it's a rhyming book, and Little Cub learns that his family's going to help him. He practices on Monday with his mom. He practices on Tuesday with his dad. He practices with Sister Bear and Brother Bear and even Grandma and Grandpa Bear. So some of the words, there's over 50 sight words in the book. In the back of the book, I have a section that I'll give you a little thing here. It says, Little Cub practiced and practiced. He said each word. He wrote each word. He sang each word. Some of the words are is, am, are, was, were, be, being, been, do, does, did. All those words that are not exactly phonetic. And then in the back of the book, I have a whole section of each word that is in the book and a section in the back for parents and teachers to have fun activities to teach the kids sight words at home.
Well, I love that match game. That is something that my kids and I loved playing when they were younger. I should have known about the shaving cream game. That would have been a lot. My son used to love writing in chocolate pudding.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it was kind of ugly. I don't know if my wife would have gone for the shaving cream, but I know my kids would have loved that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've hosted, and this isn't something that we can kind of answer here, but we've hosted international students in our home, and a lot of those international kids who became part of our family come from China,
Mm-hmm.
where they read in a very different way than us. Their entire language is sight words. Each character, I think a lot of us think that each character in Mandarin represents a sound, like the letters in our language do, and each one of those characters represents a word. And on the one hand, I look and I'm thinking, how in the world could I remember 15,000 words or more? And they also I said, well, how do you look up a word? If you don't know what the word, you see a character, you don't know what it is, how can you look it up and like go to the dictionary?
Exactly.
And there's a way you count the number of horizontal lines and the vertical. I don't know. But that seems, it seems like we need to come up with some way that we can help kids who struggle with dyslexia and get thrown off with that whole, decoding thing.
Exactly. It's crazy. And I think that's why I was so passionate about writing this book. I think I think the idea of perseverance, and kids need to learn to be perseverant and practice and memorize every day, even if they don't want to do it. But I think parents and caretakers can make it as fun as possible.
Yeah. As a former teacher and principal, someone that's really been in the trenches with kids, and I really respect that, and I thank you for doing that. I discovered doing, as a host of Reading with Your Kids podcast, that kids learn to read from preschool to second grade. And then once they hit third grade, now they're reading to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many kids who aren't ready at third grade. How can we best support those kids?
I know that is like the big push is they have to take a test in third grade. And if they don't pass that test, then there's all kinds of trouble, like talking about holding kids back. And I just don't think that's right. I think the earlier earlier intervention is the best. I think if parents start out, I'd say, many parents read to your kids when they're babies and toddlers. Also, like when you're reading a book, point to the words so kids can see the words and the letters. They learn their alphabet usually first. Make it fun. Look at the script and see, or the text, and see if they can find any words in that text that begin with the letter A or the letter D. Find a letter. Another thing they can do is if they come across a word that a child doesn't know, explain what that word means. They can also read stories that rhyme. Kids love early intervention. Kids love books that rhyme or repeat sounds. Reread your children's favorite books over and over again. It helps them learn the text and look at those words. Point out the little sight words like the, or an, or and, or said, because how many times in text is the word said? Count objects on the page. That helps in early math skills. Ask children questions such as, what do you think is going to happen next in the story? What was your favorite part of the story? When children get to be about 4 and 5 years old, have them retell you the story, which is always, always fun. I think just the earlier you can help your children, the better off they're going to be and be more successful with reading. Also, I always like to say that little ears and little eyes are always watching, so you need to be a role model. Have your kids see you reading yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question exactly.
Close enough. Close. You're the teacher, so I think, the last thing you said, be a role model, I think is so very important. And it was something that LeVar Burton shared with me when he was on the podcast, and I asked him where his inspiration, his love of literacy came from, and he said it was his mom. Seeing his mom always had a novel or a magazine or a newspaper. It's scary to think that these days a lot of kids, all they see in their parents' hands is a phone, a screen.
Yes, I agree.
How worried are you that our kids aren't seeing those role models?
I'm worried. I am. I mean, you go out to dinner and what do you see? Parents hand their children phones at the table. Our society has changed so much. But there's a lot of really good parents out there that do take their children to the library and do purchase books. But, it's a scary world. It is. It makes my heart sad to see kids that are 1 and 2 years old playing on a phone, where I'd rather see them have a book, even if it's a board book, a cloth book, Yeah,
absolutely. And the thing about a good board book or cloth book is they can chew on it.
Exactly.
Eat it. It's $20. If your kid eats your phone or drools into your phone,
you're in trouble.
That's a lot of money. So
exactly.
Tell me, what's it feel like? You shared with us, you were in the classroom in schools for over 30 years. Now you're still teaching, but in a very different way. How does that feel?
I love what I'm doing now. I have over 14 books out, and I love doing author visits. The kids are just delightful. So I know that kids still love books. I mean, they do. And if they're exposed to them, they love it. It's a fun way to encourage literacy. And actually, I don't charge for my author visits. And most authors do. And the reason I don't is that I know how schools don't have a lot of money now. I do ask them to send home my order form if any parents would like to purchase books, and then I autograph those. So, I just take up my own expense, and that's how passionate I am about author visits.
Yes, and as a former principal, you must understand. You not only understand the challenges, financial challenges that schools face, but also the excitement that having somebody, an author, visit a school means. How much excitement it brings to the school.
It does. They are very excited. It's so funny. Like they think that you are a movie star. They ask sometimes kids, like when they're lining up, they'll say, "Could you sign my notebook? Could you?" It's adorable. I just love it. And my thing is, I started out with the ABCs of Making Good Choices. That was my very first book back in 2013. And I'm all about teaching kids to make good choices, to grow up and be good citizens. And that's my platform. Recently I wrote the ABCs of God's Love, and that's also my platform.
Well, we should tell everybody what platform they should visit to find out more about you and find out more about your books.
www.mrsgoodchoice.com.
We've had a wonderful time speaking to the author of Little Cub's Big List, Fun with Sight Words. Our guest has been Dawn Young. Dawn, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. I have certainly enjoyed it, Jed.
Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Join us right now from Los Angeles and the sunny state of California. Our guest is here today to celebrate her memoir. Her illustrated memoir is called Born Naughty. Please welcome to the show, Jen Wang. Jen, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Jed. I'm so happy and so grateful to be here. Thank you.
You are welcome. Tell us about that, because you grew up in a part of the world that many people don't know exists.
Yes, I know. Even now, actually, our town is turned down. It's nothing there because, so many people are moving out. We only had 18 houses before when I was living there.
So we're talking about Inner Mongolia, which is very different than the nation Mongolia, right?
Yeah, very different. It's part of China, actually. And also a very, very tiny place, which is close to the desert. Like Mongolia is a lot of land, but we are close to the desert. Same times we a little bit close to the land, Greenland. Yeah, as but it's very, very tiny, little place.
Yeah.
We had no electricity, no water. I mean, a little bit of water, but not enough for us to survive, but we have to find water from different town.
Well, so tell us what it was like growing up in Inner Mongolia, this part of China that is so desolate, and you're by yourself and you're in this little town with only 18 homes. So we're probably talking less than 100 people, and you don't have water, you don't have electricity. What was that like?
It is let's talk about this, a summer, winter, and summer, summer is really, it's we had not much rain, but when we rain, it's a lot. So every house is leaking that time. We have to really have a lot of things to catch the rain. And the winter is below 40. That's frozen, and the wind can blow like through your bone. That's how cold it is.
Wow.
But yeah, we had like 6 months. It's all below zero. That's very cold.
Wow. So
yeah.
How does somebody survive in a place that's so cold, that doesn't have all the amenities that we're used to here? I'm imagining there's no Ralph's or Stop and Shop that you can just walk down and buy your groceries. How did you folks survive?
Actually, I'm not so sure why people are, I'm questioning too, why people can live this kind of place, but we did. And, it's really, we don't have any grocery really as like a grocery to buy like a vegetable, anything. We grew everything together. And we had a paragraph about, potato mountain. It's just like we ate potato every single day because we have nothing to, like we don't have really vegetables.
What could kids here in the States reading this book relate to as they're reading your story?
You know, when we write this book, you know, we are trying to like tell the kids, you know, about the nature. You can go to outside climbing trees, you know, and also find out what kind of leaves, you know, when you go up, what kind of views. So that's why not all the time with the phone, with the tablet, you know, and then you can really close to the nature. You go to yourself to feel the nature. Maybe not same as like me. You don't have same feeling like me.
Well, we want to encourage everybody to check out Born Naughty. It is the brand new book from our guest, Jen Wang. Jen, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids. Well, join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Please be sure to connect with us on social media. We love hearing from our friends on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids. At Reading With Your Kids on Instagram and TikTok. At Jedley Magic on Twitter. We have a great YouTube channel. YouTube.com/readingwithyourkids. You can find all of our STEM is Family Fun videos on our YouTube channel. You can also find our Drawing with Your Kids videos on our YouTube channel and most episodes of the podcast. We would also love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can check out our blog, download our free online magazine, visit our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read Wall of Fame, and use the contact button at the top of the page to send us a message. Let us know what you love about the show. Let us know what you don't like so much. And, of course, let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of Reading with Your Kids. And if you are an author, please be sure to click the author's click here button at the top of the page to find out how you can be a guest here in the show. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy. It gives you the chance to tell thousands of Kidlit fans about your great kids book, and it doesn't cost you a thing. You can also learn about our very effective and very affordable promotional services. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we start by thanking our guests, Karolita Hernandez, Dawn Young, and Jen Wang. My team, they deserve a big round of applause. Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Judy Hu, Stella Sheree, Hannah Bosange, Alyssa Montiero, Julia Lipman, Devin Hill, Riley Oluwu. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.